Depending on the time you are watching this broadcast, elections will likely have taken place, about to take place, or already concluded. Winners and losers known. But our responsibility is to have an active engagement with citizens and to let them know that they stand a great chance of doing the right thing. Wherever you are joining us in the world right now, I bid you welcome to the agenda. My name is Abiodun Famujura. In today's episode, we shall be looking at the youths and the 2023 polls, specifically the 2023 polls. I am joined virtually with a veteran journalist, a man who has worked across various stratas and even in the legislature, Israel Fagbemigun. Welcome to the agenda once again.
It's been a pleasure joining here again, sir.
It's great to have you. Let's get right into it because we need to maximize time and we need to engage correctly. Why is it important for young people to be informed and engaged in the political process? We're talking about youths and the 2023 polls. We need to let them understand why it is important, if it is important, for young people to be informed and engaged with regards to the political process. Mr. Fagbemigun, you have the floor.
Well, I think that the first thing to know is that governance in Nigeria is serious business. And whatever decision that is taken in government determines to a very large extent the number of prayer points that we will need to pray. Policies of government, yes, the policies of government, some of our friends who have had the privilege to travel to the Western states, they don't pray the prayers that we pray here because you know that there are some things that we pray about that are very, very unlikely in the developed
nation.
And the only engineer, the only instrument to make general development happen, a development that will affect the vast majority, is through the instrumentality of government. So rather than spend more time in the prayer room
or on social media,
on social media, mentioning from one point to the other, what we should do is to realize the fact that government is a serious business. And if we know that government is a serious business, then we'll get ourselves acquainted with what is supposed to be known before we go to the poll.
Correct.
Because the poll is not just the election day is not just a day where you go and line up and vote for somebody. Election day is where you determine the direction of governance, and to a large extent, the extent to which you find it easy or hard in the next 4 years.
And,
so there's no magic
depending on the outcome, it could be 8 years. It could be 8 years against 4 years.
It could be 8 years against 4 years. Take, for instance, why our people must understand that it's a very serious business and that they must get informed before going to the poll is because every policy of government affects millions.
Yes, it affects lives.
Because after God, the most powerful is government. So if you give the most powerful to the most backward of society, what you get cannot be far, is not something that is easily predictable.
Mr. Fagbemigun, let me interrupt you there and ask you a question. The polls are upon us. We want the young people, we want youth to come out en masse and vote according to their conscience, according to the knowledge they've acquired. How do we address the low or prevent a low youth voter turnout? Knowing well that this representation of their interests and concerns in government decision-making will be impacted if there is a low youth voter turnout?
Well, I think that advocacy and continuous education are the only tools, because there is no law that says that you must vote. There is no law that penalizes those who don't go to the poll on the election day. And in actual fact, why that law can never come up, or why there's not likely to be such kind of law, is because the lesser the number of people
that vote
that come out, the easier it is for the average politician who has nothing to offer
to be elected.
of course, to be elected.
So how do we arrest this low youth voter turnout?
I think it's just continuing to educate our people about how important the business of government is, how serious the business of government is. And I'll talk about just one analogy. The healthcare in Nigeria looks like nobody is talking about it as something important. But the truth is, if government gets it right in the area of healthcare alone, an average Nigerian will save a very reasonable percentage of his income that is spent
on medical tourism.
On medical tourism. And even apart from medical tourism, what you spend in the pharmacy, you should get to know some basic things that government is supposed to let you know. If there are basic health facilities at your disposal, you will not go to the pharmacy and waste money on trial treatments before you get to know what is wrong with you. If there are good government laboratory that cost little or nothing to access, people will not just walk into the medicine stores and start doing trial by error in treatment and continue to damage some of their vital organs, all in the name of trying to treat some ailments.
Mr. Fagbemigun, let's talk about something very important with regards to the youth and 2023 polls. Some young people have given up on the electoral process. Some young people believe that the winners are already known, even before going to the polls. How do we correct this impression? How do we make the young people know that there is still a silver lining beyond the cloud?
I think that the level of confidence that the electoral umpire, INEC, builds for itself in the mind of an average Nigerian goes a long way to affect.
Do you think that INEC has built, do you believe that INEC has built that confidence with regards to the 2023 polls?
Well, with the latest unraveling with the latest development in Osun State, I don't think that they have done enough. But of course, there's room for improvement. Because practically what the court has told the entire world in the case of Osun State, Adeleke versus Oyetola, is that INEC is just deceiving us.
All right.
That's the interpretation of that judgment.
The challenge with that decision is that it is sub judice. It is a matter within the court's jurisdiction. So we're unable to talk about it extensively, even if we would love to. But INEC is, in recent time, INEC has been on a massive sensitization drive. They have extended voters' PVC collection. They have told people where to pick up their cards. Some people have reached out to people. But how do we convince the young people, the youth of this nation, that your vote will count this time around and that they should not conclude that the elections are done and dusted even before going to the polls?
I think much more than how we convince them, we should talk more about how they convince themselves. Because the truth is, whether anybody likes it or not, the moment you are 18 and above, which is the age that you have the power to vote, you have started taking responsibility for yourself in many decisions of life. So if you feel that you are comfortable with the hardship that is currently bedeviling about 85% of the population in Nigeria, then you can decide to believe whatever you want to believe. But if you feel that you are not comfortable, then the next question is you ask yourself is, how do you change the status quo? And the answer that is staring at you at the face is to study well, get yourself educated, and go to the poll and take the right decisions. So for me, I think that it is high time we stop talking about getting people convinced. Let the people own it for themselves. Let the people own
let them take ownership.
Let them take ownership of their decisions. If you know that a decision is consequential to you, and you refuse to take ownership of it, whatever comes out of it, then you shouldn't blame anybody. So for me, I think that it is more important if the youths and young population take ownership of the process. If they take ownership and they are well informed, they know what exactly is expected of the average political class, and they use it as a yardstick to vote in or vote out, then our problem is 100% solved. Because if the politician knows that there's a consequential population that is keeping an eye on them, they will not misbehave.
Very true.
There
Mr.
will be no anti-people policy that like we're having today.
Mr. Fagbemigun, we're going to continue this conversation when we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, there is something very important to that young person watching. Even if you're not under the classification of a young person, there is something important you need to know. Allow me to tell you this. If you are 18 years old this year, in the next 4 years, you will be 32. In the next 8 years, you will be 36. You will not be that young again. Life will have happened to you, either for good or for bad. The decision that will take place this year, 2023, will be significant in impacting your life with regards to the elections and the persons you elect. Wherever you are, add 8 years to your age and ask yourself, what quality of life do I expect to have? The conversation continues when we return. It is still the agenda. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is still the agenda. I am here with Israel Fagbemigun. We're talking about youth and the 2023 polls. Israel Fagbemigun, Mr. Israel, let me ask you a question with regards to distractions, manipulations, and societal programming. A lot of young people are looking for ways to express themselves other than ways that are mentally tasking and cerebrally engaging. Now, I did not say all. Some persons, Nigeria is doing phenomenal things in the fintech. But I feel in the place of governance, I believe in the place of governance, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me, that we're still behind the global template as young people. What do you say about this?
Well, I think that mental laziness is a product of what let me call it the benchmark that we met.
You said mental laziness.
The mental laziness
okay.
that is presently pervading the population of the young people in Nigeria is a product of the benchmark that we met on ground. If we have been having brilliant presidents that the young person has been seen as mentors or people we are looking forward to, if you have been having the best of brains as governors, by now we'll have more brilliant young ones than we are having. So what is presently staring at us at the face is a product of the decision that was taken when we were yet not grown up enough to vote.
But now that we can vote,
it is now left for us to retrace our step and locate our bearing on the compass of the politics to be able to change the narrative. Because the truth is that the old order that we met was just a few set of people who come together and choose according to the sentiments that favor their agenda. But now, if we want to own the politics, if we want to own decisions, if we want to own governance, we must all come together as young persons to redirect the yardsticks, to reset the method, the basis of our decisions, the parameters that will decide, that will measure who becomes and who doesn't become. So I think that the average Nigerian has a lot of work in his hands when it comes to trying to.
Mr. Fagbemigun, we are talking about the polls, the 2023 polls, and we're talking about the young people, the youths of this nation. But you and I will acknowledge the fact that you cannot, political aspiration, political will, political involvement, changing the course of governance and leadership direction requires an economic capacity. How do young people access the economic wherewithal to be able to make the required impact? The young man that is seeking stability, the young woman that is seeking financial stability, the last thing on his or her mind is the political situation. He will only look for a way to adjust himself in spite of the difficulties he's confronted with. What do you say?
Well, I think that, you see, looking for prioritizing financial stability above getting involved in who becomes what in governance is only a product of not enough deep thoughts about what your priorities are. Because it is one that determines the remaining, that determines, it is the first one that determines the second one. I mean, it is who is in government that determines how well
Your financial life will be.
Whatever endeavors you find yourself. If you are in business, government determines how much you do well in the business. If you are in school, government determines how much you pay. If you are in the entertainment industry, government determines your tax. They determine many other things that will affect you, either positively or negatively. So if our people get to understand that it is only good for you to address what will address every other thing, then they will stop talking about individual and immediate financial stability and face the root cause of the problem. It's just like when somebody has malaria and is treating headache. Headache is only one of the symptoms of malaria. So our headache in this scenario is the financial instability that is facing us. But the real malaria, which we are supposed to treat, is bad governance. Because if there's good governance, government will have plan for you as a young person. So you won't be as stranded or you won't be as financially incapacitated as you are presently. So our people, the young population must know that beyond what you eat or how you will pay your bills, I have not said the argument is not that is not important, but most important is to help them put your quota into who governs you. Because whoever governs you will determine how comfortable you are and how well you'll be able to spend, the level of satisfaction you will get from whatever you are paid or from whatever you are earning from whatever endeavor you get yourself involved in.
So, Mr. Fagbemigun, you are saying fundamentally that the outcome of the 2023 polls on the life of young people will be significant if we get it wrong, and favorable if we get it right.
Of course, sir. Because the truth is, there is nobody exists in isolation from government policy. Nobody. If the president of Nigeria stands up today and gets only one single policy right, there was a governor in Ondo State who got it right in the area of health, who got it right in the area of primary and secondary education. Till this moment, the people they are yet to recover from the positive effects of what happened.
Of that policy.
There are families who their entire children were born during that time, and they got it just right from there because of that single government policy. But of course, there is another one who has come in the state and has seen thousands, hundreds of thousands drop out of school because of government policy. So it's not about what you will get immediately. It's not about what you want to eat or how you pay your bills. It's about who determines how much bill you pay. It's about who determines how much money you will earn at the long run and how you will enjoy the money.
Mr. Fagbemigun.
If the issue of insecurity,
insecurity is a major subject that we haven't really touched about. But let me say this. If you had the opportunity to speak to young people in Nigeria as you are doing right now, what are the two main fundamental subjects you would tell them in reference to the 2023 elections? You have a platform right now, you're addressing the young people, those who are eligible to vote from the age of 18 and above. And you want to tell them, if you are making any mistake, this is the mistake you must not make. What will you tell them?
Well, my first admonition to the generality of young persons in Nigeria is, whoever is part of our problem is not worthy to be a solution in the problem.
Whoever is part of the problem should not become part of the solution. What if they have the capacity to be the solution?
Because the truth is, if you were part of the problem, what I mean by being part of the problem is, if you were there once and you didn't do anything significant, it is a litmus test to what you would do if you return to the place.
Okay.
That's one. Two, the issue of always looking at sentiments, always looking at encumbrances, guiding your decision. I'm talking about tribal,
Religious,
ethnic, and religious
ethnic,
sentiment is a major problem among our young persons in terms of decision. And that somebody is conspicuous or he can speak good English in front of you doesn't mean that he can take good decisions. So our people must read beyond or must listen beyond what the politicians are saying and look into their past record. If somebody has been saddled with responsibility, with any responsibility before and didn't do well, there is no assurance that he will do well if he's given another choice.
or do better.
Or do better if he's given another choice. So that's number one. Number two, we must also look very well beyond political affiliation. Because part of the major problems in Nigeria is because there are two big political parties that have seen themselves as the only two choices. So the idea is that if Mr. A doesn't get it, Mr. B will get it. So the young persons must get involved and be able to, in whichever way, make their decision bring up other alternatives different from these two alternatives.
So you are also advocating that the young people need to join political parties, get involved, other than the two popular political parties.
Of course, because in actual fact, elections and whoever is going to get into office is actually determined at the level of electoral college, which in Nigeria we call primary elections. If there are two bad choices before you, all you just need to do is to go and sleep and allow the evil that is expected to happen. But if you have two bad choices and you have, yes, there are examples practically in almost every central district in Nigeria today. I have one in my hand in my central district where I have two bad choices. And in fact, in my conscience, in deep down in my conscience, I'm not going to vote for any of the two. But the truth is that whether I vote for any of the two or not, one of the two will come in.
Will
So
emerge.
I'm only waiting.
So isn't there,
yes.
Mr. Fagbemigun, isn't there an alternative to these two bad choices you're making reference to?
Now, the challenge I have with those who have presented themselves as alternatives is that they are not even conspicuous to their immediate family members, let alone being conspicuous to the generality of electorate.
Ouch.
There's a federal constituency where you have 290 polling units, and somebody is contesting for House of Reps. There are two major choices. There are two major political parties that have sponsored candidates that are popular across board in those 290 political units. And there's another one who is a better choice, who is a more interesting, a more resourceful choice, but has restricted this ourselves within the confines of this our room. It doesn't even have agents.
So it means Mr. Fagbemigun, that young people getting involved should increase their visibility, their advocacy, and register their presence.
Of course.
So the involvement should not be restricted to words alone. There needs to be affirmative action that will deliver results.
As a matter of fact, personal resources must be committed to it, because wherever you don't put your money or your energy, you don't consider it serious enough. But if you put your money and energy, you want to put more effort into making sure that you don't waste those two resources. But majority of those who are young persons who want to get involved today, they think that it is about just going to vote on the election day. It is not. There are lots of things that happen before the election day.
Mr. Fagbemigun,
and those things determine what will eventually happen in the election day.
Mr. Fagbemigun, allow me to say this in another direction. There are persons who are vying for political office, and you do not consider them to be fantastic individuals. What happens when young people get into the circle of influence of those individuals to tell them there is a better way to do it, sir and ma? There is something we can do better for you to entrench your name in the annals of history of this nation. Don't you think that could be another strategy for young people to deploy?
You see, what is a very good strategy, but what is wrong with that strategy is that it is those who make them whatever they are that become their first point of reference and that have their listening ears first. Take for instance, there's one of these choices that I say I have in my senatorial district, that those who determined how he became candidate of the party were common cobblers, Okada riders, farmers. I'm not talking about intellectual farmers. I'm talking about farmers who are only subsistence farmers. And a lot of elements who have this kind of characters that some of the times, if I even have a house, I can't employ some of them as my guard, as my security detail, as my gateman. Sorry. So these are the people who brought him in as the candidate of the party, and these are the people who are practically moving everywhere for him now.
So when he emerges, they will be the one to call the shots around him.
They will be the one to call the shots around him. And when they call the shot, they will not ask for those things that are in general interest.
So the quality of representation is already challenged.
It's already challenged. So an example of such charlatans now who have made a senator to become a senator, what they will ask for are things that are of personal interest to them.
And not for the collective good.
Advise him on how to sell the constituency project and make more money so that they can get from it and keep for the next election to go and
Mr. Fagbemigun, I will ask you one last question in this episode. Do you believe that Nigeria can take its place in the Committee of Nations of great nations?
Yes, I do believe. But the extent to which that will become a reality lies in the hands of every of us who are still nonchalant about the process.
Thank you very much.
Because as it stands, the right persons are not calling the shot. So there are some populations somewhere who have the energy, but who are not deploying it. And the earlier we get those populations get involved, the faster the change that we want will come.
Israel Fagbemigun, it has been a great delight having you on the agenda. Wherever you are, please take note of this. This nation has everything to be great. It takes you and I. If you have been sitting down for such a long time, get up, stand up, take your rightful position, because this nation needs you. I am calling on you right now. Not only with your PVC, get involved in the political process. Let them know where you stand. Make your contributions, let your voices be heard. It is time for us to make a difference. This is The Agenda. My name is Abiodun Famujoro. Connect with us on all our various social media platforms. Engage with us. But most importantly, do this. For this nation to take its rightful place as a great nation that it is, do your part. And do your part in a way that generations that will come after you will bless you and not curse you. Bye for now.